All right, well, hello and welcome everyone. I am Erin Pearson. I am the VP of Marketing here at eValueServe, and I'm going to be your host and moderator for today's webinar, which is on future-proofing competitive intelligence. So whether you're tuning in from a strategy team, a research function, or a business leadership role, we're really glad that you're here because in today's conversation, we're going to speak directly to the growing pressure many teams are facing to deliver intelligence faster, deeper, and more strategically than we ever had to before. So just a few quick notes as we are jumping into the webinar. We're going to spend approximately the next 30 minutes exploring real-world examples and applications and frameworks that are redefining how marketing competitive intelligence is evolving in the AI era, especially with generative and agentic AI coming in. The panel that we have is going to share insights, tools, and lessons learned, and then we're going to wrap up with Q&A. So please use the chat feature to submit any questions that you have as we are going through the session. And of course, the webinar is going to be recorded and shared with all of the registrants post the event. So let's just get started with the reality that many of us are already living. Marketing competitive intelligence teams in professional services firms are under a lot of pressure to deliver insights that are faster, more predictive, and deeply contextual. It's not just about what happened, but it's about what is next, and more so, what should we do about it? Yet, despite a lot of investments in knowledge tools, digital repositories, and automation platforms, many organizations are still struggling to connect intelligence to decision-making fast enough. They're struggling to scale research without burning out their analysts and to adapt their frameworks to meet the demands of the multi-market and multi-client complexity. Okay, and then once you add in generative AI and agentic AI to the mix, everything is starting to shift again. These aren't tools for content creation, but they're really changing and transforming how knowledge is captured, synthesized, and applied across the marketing competitive intelligence value chain. According to Accenture in 2025 study, 57% of C-suite leaders admit that they're unprepared to respond to the rapid shifts in their business, but 86% of executives are planning to increase their AI investments, and 44% are already using AI to improve their process, including insight generation. So really, in this climate, MNCI isn't a reporting function, but it's a strategic capability. And it's one that is demanding a new approach, which is blending human expertise with AI that is enabled to scale and empower decision-making with sharper, faster, and more actionable intelligence. So with that, just to set a little bit of context and to help unpack this, how this transformation is playing out, we're joined by 4 exceptional speakers who are shaping marketing competitive intelligence innovation from a few different vantage points. First, we have Alex Onojesko, who's the Insights and Knowledge Lead at eValueServe. So Alex blends an academic rigor with corporate practicality. He's driven by the challenge of turning research into decision-making and brings deep experience in market intelligence across education, HR, and consulting. We also have...
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Alex. We also have Krista Abieta, who's the client director at eValueServe. So Krista has helped leading firms in the UK and Europe modernize their marketing competitive operations by delivering hybrid solutions, mixing technology with really sharp domain expertise to unlock smarter and more scalable approaches.
Hello, everyone.
Next, we have Matthew Snodgrass, who's the Global Senior Research and Insights Manager at the British Council. So Matthew brings in decades of experience in education and global research. He specializes in translating data into strategy across international programs, student mobility, customer satisfaction in complex global markets.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you all.
And then fourth, we have Marta Marczak, who's the Global Marketing Communications Director at Aid Advisory. So Marta leads cross-market campaigns with data-driven lens, bringing insight, storytelling, and business development together to elevate brand and growth strategy across the firm.
Hello, everyone.
So with all the introductions, let's just jump right into it. So Alex, I would love to start with you. And you've worked across multiple professional services domains. So how are you seeing AI reshape marketing competitive intelligence frameworks, processes, and analyst roles in real time?
Well, I think that's a very good question, and I think it's a very good start of this webinar. So maybe I'll start with one quote that it usually comes up when we start discussing with our clients. We are drowning in data, but starving for insights, right? So organizations are really struggling, even if they have a lot of data, they're struggling to derive meaningful insights and actionable insights, right? And this is true for a lot of business functions. It's HR, procurement, the supply chains, operations, and sales. But it's highly relevant for the MICI intelligence space. And that is because MICI cuts across corporate functions and answers to a whole spectrum of business questions, starting from marketing, from sales, product development, pricing, and thought leadership, right? So what we see in the last, let's say, 2 or 3 years is a real transformation of the MICI function. And I'll try to explain across at least 3 core aspects that I think are fundamental for MICI. And these are kind of a lot related to developing AI technologies. So, of course, the most important one, right, is enter AI agents, right? So what are AI agents is intelligent systems that can perceive, reason, and take actions to complete specific tasks. Now, we've been discussing about AI a lot, right, in the last 2 or 3 years, and we've all witnessed the benefits of it in MICI. It's what we call always-on intelligence, for example, where we collect faster, we monitor faster, we have a lot of automations, we interact with different chatbots in order to derive insights, right? Which leverage different information that are sitting under a database or on a platform, right? Which is good, but this is kind of passive, right? There's still a lot of work to do in the backend. There are still a lot of reports to do. There are still a lot of research to do. But this is where actually AI agents will constitute the next leap in MICI. And why is that? And that is because they provide speed and scale to workflows that usually required a lot of intensive human effort. Due to their reacting capabilities, once deployed, they automate tasks with minimal human intervention. They automatically process data across structured, unstructured, or data sets or APIs. Most importantly, they free up analysts and consultants' time, right, in order to concentrate, focus on high-value analysis and strategic initiatives. But I think the most striking is the ability to generate outputs that are tailored and relevant to the audience. Imagine an AI agent that does for you a SWOT analysis based on the information that is there, that can create a pitch book, that can spot early trends, for example, or themes, that can perform a white space analysis in the context of thought leadership, for example. So all these AI agents basically will lead us to what we like to call a little bit spot-on intelligence, where specific MICI outputs that have been there and required days or even weeks to produce will be created in minutes. So how do we actually implement this within EvalueServe? Well, we have a very clearly defined agentic workflow that involves a master AI agent, right, that receives inputs from stakeholders and communicates with several other sub-agents, right, in order to deliver the final output. These sub-agents are, for example, a data scraper that collects the relevant information, a data classifier that tags, sorts, and organizes the information, and finally, an insights agent that provides the final output in a very digestible format for trend summaries, SWOT analysis, or whatever white space analysis or other analysis. So this combination of, let's say, traditional AI plus the AI agents will move MICI to the next level. And this will lead to two fundamental shifts in our opinion. One of them, the first shift, is a smoother and much needed integration between external intelligence, whatever is out there on the web, whatever it's on paywalls, whatever is on databases, whatever is based on specialized research-based industry reports, with internal proprietary data, CRM data, consumer intelligence, explicit, implicit, or tacit information. As these two were treated separately, now AI has this power to enable the convergence between them, making a more comprehensive view of the business environment and the ability to respond more effectively, right, to shifts in customer demand, for example, or competitive moves. The second major AI-powered shift will be increasing self-service, right? So we're moving from a service-based model delivery to a more product-based delivery model, which will imply basically two things. One is personalization. So MICI will provide more customized and insights for typical to one business persona or function, right? And will adapt the inputs and outputs, right, for individual preferences. The second one is democratization. Stakeholders will be able to manipulate insights and access insights independently, removing, let's say, the usual bottlenecks from the flow of insights. Let's say, for example, waiting days or even weeks for a specialist report that needs time for someone to do. That's why we think that MICI will lose the specialist-driven characteristics, right, and become an enterprise-wide capability that will increase agility and increase the access that we see in a company. So basically, MICI, powered by AI and AI agents, will start to become a more proactive, real-time, and strategic asset, just like you said, Erin, enabling organizations to anticipate, right, more and even outmaneuver competitors based on the insights that they receive.
Yeah, that's great, Alex. I think there's a lot that's going on, and it's an exciting time to be there. So, Krista, I want to jump over to some of the things that you've been working on. You've been supporting a lot of marketing competitive intelligence initiatives across Europe and the UK. So in your experience, what's an element that clients are consistently finding really valuable in how we help them deploy and scale these programs? And could you bring that to life with a couple of examples, like what's making the biggest difference?
Yeah, of course. Well, as Alex was saying, as the world is changing faster, our clients are wanting information faster, more accurate, and more comprehensive. And so some of the things that we're doing with our clients are using some of the AI tools and agentic tools to help accelerate the process of turning that information from their MICI programs into actionable decision-making, decision-ready insights that importantly will help them and their organization keep pace with change. And one of the things that I think is the first example that popped into my head was tariffs. As soon as that topic took off, most of our clients came to us for help with keeping their finger on the pulse of what was happening in that space. And so with the technology that we have and their programs and processes, we were able to develop news alerts, newsletters, reports, several different processes that kept them in the loop in what was happening. Some of them wanted it weekly, some of them wanted it daily, but the important thing is that we were able to respond quickly to that dynamic change in the market. And I'm certain that that's not going to be the only time that something like that happens. Another way that we're supporting and adding value to our clients is through deep research tools like Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, really to help build more comprehensive deliverables, more comprehensive, for example, competitive benchmarks. We're also using it for deeper research. And one of the things that occurred to me was an example with one of our clients in the Middle East that had come to us to help them with understanding their market, the region that they were in a little bit better, because they wanted to implement healthcare institutions in that area. In the past, that type of an exercise would have taken us months to accomplish, 2-3 months to deliver. But with the use of AI tools and the MICI platforms that we were using, we were able to turn it around in weeks. And what that meant is that they got the information they need to make the decisions that they needed to make to get going with the project that they wanted to execute even faster. And another aspect that I see that actually played into that last use case was the use of market research. Market research is being used by more and more of our clients, and largely to help fill that gap that the technology just can't cover. But in a world where also the data is becoming available to just about anyone, and everyone's working off of the same data in essence, at least publicly, using market research and primary research to help create a differentiation is also an attractive point for our clients. So they'll use that in combination with the MICI programs to provide a rounder view of what's happening in their area. I'd say probably the last point that I'd want to pull out was the point that often gets overlooked, but is very important, is increasing adoption in these tools. It's great to move them into an organization, but to be able to train, make the organization aware of the tools that are out there, help them uncover use cases is something that often gets overlooked. And in our approach, we use a customer success manager who does work closely with our clients and understanding that, because we know that every single organization we engage with is moving along that AI path at a different rate. They have different processes to support that. So we like to lend a hand in helping manage that change and integrating those processes into their organizations so that they can see value quicker. AI tools are powerful right now. They're going to get even more powerful as they evolve, but it's still raw potential that needs refinement. And this is why all the points that I've mentioned above still require humans in the loop, humans to add the context, add quality, creativity, and also to help inform the strategic direction that AI can't deliver. And I think those are the points that help enable our clients with their MICI programs.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's certainly true that, while AI is evolving quite a bit right now, there is still a long way for it to go. But what's really exciting is how fast it's moving, and what could take years or decades in the past is now really only taking a matter of months. So it's interesting to see how fast everyone is evolving, and it takes a different mindset within different organizations as well. So would like to move on to, hearing from Matthew as well right now. So Matthew, what are the evolving competitive intelligence needs that education companies are seeing, and what are some relevant use cases that, you're implementing?
Sure. Well, I think at the moment, the big thing is, like any industry, is navigating the AI revolution, and that has some really significant implications for the education sphere. So, primarily around the impact on learners, how that's going to potentially impact a more personalized form of learning. I think around 10 years ago, there was a lot of talk around MOOCs, the massive open online learning courses. And one of the kind of key kind of pedagogical principles or aims of that was essentially to get like a digital Aristotle, an Aristotle in your pocket. And now we're at the point where that's almost possible through AI. So it's really about navigating that revolution and really seeing from MICI standpoint what our competitors are doing in that space and how quickly they're moving. And also the big thing is around assessment, how the impact that has on assessment. Obviously, COVID changed the world of assessment a lot because people couldn't physically do exams. So that a lot of that had to move online. But now with the advent of AI, that has significant implications, not just for people doing assessments face-to-face, but even doing the more formative kind of assessments, so doing like group tasks and so on. So it's a really big, there's been a lot of change, like in every industry, but even more so, I think, in the education industry, and it's moving at a really huge pace. I mean, Duolingo, I think about a month ago, said that they were going to adopt an AI-first strategy, which they kind of show, and also, you know, Pearson, a massive international education company, have said that they're the key pillar of their strategy going forward is through AI. So really, it's around that. It's also about the impact that has on kind of lifelong learning and that kind of upskilling boom that will come as a result of it. And really, it's just understanding in terms of how this fits into MICI, really understanding how that all fits in together, and how much competitors are really doing in that space. I mean, just to give you a bit of perspective on the scale of what I deal with, if you think about how many people in the world speak English, any ideas in the chat, maybe? How many people speak English?
We can do a quiz.
Okay, no problem. Nobody's particularly forthcoming. That's fine. You can see I'm an ex-teacher asking questions there, but ultimately, it's about 1.5 billion people in the world who speak English. And obviously, that presents a huge market, which has a huge scale. And we operate in around 100 countries. So the competitive intelligence really needs to be able to handle that scale. And it needs to kind of, we need to have tools that can really tell us, also can give us a bird's eye perspective on the themes that are emerging and how quickly those themes are emerging and how quickly new delivery methods are being adopted as well.
Matthew, one of the things that you said that I think I'm going to start using in my day-to-day vocabulary is Aristotle in your pocket. I really like that term, but I think the scale at which you're talking is remarkable, really, with how many people not only speak English, but I think a lot of people can also relate to how many countries that you have to track. All companies are really becoming global, or even if you're just focused on a market or a certain region, you know, you have this effect that, you know, your supply chain or like people at different points in your value chain are being impacted in other countries, and that's going to impact your operations, or it's going to impact how people think about certain countries or want to do businesses here versus somewhere else. So everything is far more interconnected, and there is like this much more complicated web that is going on just as the world just continues to evolve as well. So that's really interesting. And what I love about the education point of view as well is it's something that everyone can very easily relate to, because, you know, we've all been through it to varying degrees. And it's really interesting to see how it all comes together. So Marta, you know, you're in the consulting and advisory space, and so you guys are seeing things a bit different and how the evolution is happening in that area. So can you talk through what you're seeing in terms of the evolution and some of like the main use cases that you are applying within competitive intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me start with something that is, I would say, maybe a differentiator in terms of, you know, how industries approach AI. So the challenge is that consultancy companies are super cautious about confidentiality, you know, keeping data safe, the client's data safe. So they are really cautious in terms of, you know, implementing AI tools. So that's the thing number one I wanted to say. And you can imagine that it also impacts marketing. And and even though the teams are gradually, you know, using AI tools in their everyday jobs, I would say, it was a bit of a challenge for the marketing team, you know, to convince the teams to use MICI and to basically show that we can really offer support that can impact the business in a positive way. So we started with SEO. That's how our cooperation with EvalueServe started. I used to work with other SEO companies in the past, and I have to say it, you know, cooperation with EvalueServe was a kind of a game changer because of the quality of the work that MICI brought, but also the pace in which we could work. So firstly, we started to use market intelligence to find out what basically people are searching for online, their needs, questions, interest, you know, in our area of interest, obviously. And the second point is competitive intelligence. So we wanted to understand what our competitors are doing, the services that they promote, what they are weak and strong at, where maybe there are significant niches that we could use, or the opposite, what's trending right now and where we should become part of the conversations on the market. So by combining these two factors, we were able to quickly adjust our SEO strategy and make sure that, you know, our services appear high in Google search results, which was obviously our goal number one. So like looking operationally at this topic, we will simply able to pick better keywords. So the ones that people were actually searching for, and create smarter content, which is really not the case in cooperation with other SEO companies, which usually ask you for keywords, and it's absolutely not the strategy that I wanted to follow. So so yeah, that was the approach that really surprised me, and I have to say that we've been working for like 2 years now with EvalueServe, and I can tell you that after the first 3 months, so after the pilot, our results skyrocketed actually, and you know, the results keep on improving still after the 2 years of cooperation. And you know, even though we are not able to deliver everything that we would love to deliver, it's still, you know, it's still going pretty well. I would say that the next step that we try to make, you know, after implementing the SEO and cooperation with EvalueServe, was convincing the industry teams, because everyone is wearing industry lens right now, which is absolutely logical. And we were trying to convince our industry teams that we can actually really bring value to their work, and that we can ease their conversations with clients, that we can provide them with information on, you know, thought leadership that our competitors are creating, which topics are trending, where we can see blank spaces, you know, yeah. So I think they're gradually seeing the value, and we will not stop, obviously, and we will be still monitoring the competition and basically what's cooking on the market, which topics are tackled, and so on and so forth. But we have also started the Opportunity Radar project, let's say. So we will be also providing our teams with information on, you know, on what our targets are doing currently, and if there are any, I would say, business opportunities, you know, waiting in there for us.
Yeah, you know, Marta, I think there's a couple of things that you said that I think are just really cool. The first, you know, when you're talking about SEO, it's, you know, it's been a topic for many years now, but it's having this resurgence in conversation at the moment because, of course, Gen AI and you know, search engines are changing the search. I mean, Google, this morning, just changed their search engine as well. So you have this AI option that you can just get a generative text response instead of having the, you know, iconic list of newsfeed. So it's going to change the game. So it's going to keep everybody on their toes as well. And I think the other piece is, of course, the industry understanding as well. If you're going to stand out in a market, especially as a professional services and consulting firm, you really have to show that expertise. So having that industry knowledge and being able to put that at the forefront from your clients has really never been more important. So I think those are all really great things. Krista, I want to just circle back to you very quickly. So one of the big challenges that we're seeing from, large and multi-region organizations is what you could call, I guess, a quote unquote, moving from pockets of insight to what would be more scalable and unified marketing competitive intelligence programs. So just pretty quickly, what are some success factors in deploying MNCI at scale in these global organizations when automation and AI are in play?
Yeah, basically, how do we get started? Comes around a phrase I like to use: how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. And though everything is moving really fast right now, we really find value of taking the first steps very methodically and making sure that the foundation that we set for these programs is solid before we ramp up to top speed. So we use what we call as a D3 framework. It's pretty straightforward, but it keeps us on path. It's the D3 stands for diagnose, design, and deliver. And so when we're in the design phase, that gives us the ability to really understand what is really needed by that organization. We're usually talking to more than one stakeholder and getting perspective maybe from various business units. That gives us a really holistic view of what's really going to be required of that MICI program once we get up to ramp speed. The design phase, and this is where we can build in a bit more of the bespokeness, because we're drawing on not only what we're creating from our platform, but also on the data sources that the clients have, data assets, content. It helps with de-siloing some of the information, if you will, and creating a unique platform specifically to that client to work from, which is very powerful. And the last stage is the delivery, and this is where again, we don't like to rush through this if we can. We want to be able to observe what interactions the users are making, understand what they're searching for, how they want to use the platform, even uncovering some of the new use cases that hadn't been thought of before. It might require that even we take a look at different geographies than what they wanted, different sectors or competitors even that they initially thought they wanted to look at. But all that is important in getting that foundation right. And from there, it really kind of takes off. I mean, Marta's talked about using it for SEO and then moving on to thought leadership, and then now using it for defining new opportunities in the market and understanding their key accounts even a bit better. Matt is using it for, really doing a deeper dive into some of the other regions, and each of their regions has completely unique needs that they have. But this hunger and this thirst for more insight only increases with time. So and use. So that's where we've built in the flexibility in being able to deliver a program that will scale as the organization's interests change. They might have a different play in the future. But the AI tools and the flexibility of the framework allow us to really help them keep pace with that change that's coming as best we can for the future.
Yeah, I think that's always the key. The best we can. Everything is always evolving, and you have to stay on top of everything. So I want to do a round robin for everybody that is here now, and do something that's a little bit more forward looking. So everyone can make a few predictions here. So we're hearing a lot from all of you about the current state that we are in, but I want to get your sense on where you all believe things are headed. So we're going to start with Alex, then Krista, Marta, and then we'll wrap up with Matthew. But what do you believe the future of marketing competitive intelligence looks like? So Alex, pressure's on.
Yeah, I think we've discussed a lot about AI, agentic AI, but my honest opinion is that the future of MICI is inherently human. And that is, analysts, consultants will continue to leverage AI for monitoring, benchmarking, tracking, synthesizing, summarizing, whatever. But whatever organizational nuances or needing to contextualize decisions, that's going to be human, right? Any kind of particular intelligence that AI can feed in different types of outputs will need more contextualization in order to what it means for the organization, for the customers, for the brand, right? So human intuition and gut feel, I think, will be essential in any kind of decision-making process and strategic directions. Humans will continue to ask the right questions, think critically, challenge assumptions, or influence stakeholders.
That's great. And just before we move on to Krista, if anyone has any specific questions, you can also feel free to put them in the chat if we haven't already answered them for today. But Krista, where do you believe the future of marketing and competitive intelligence is going?
Yeah, I think it evolves around, as Alex says, not only the human in the loop, but also working with our clients to use technology to keep pace with technology. I think our clients will need to build a different level of skill sets to understand what can be accomplished with a market and competitive intelligence platform. The information and the value that they can help bring the organization is going to, rest with them in that respect. But I think also it will help keep their finger on the pulse of what's happening and what's important. Not a lot of new stuff there, but as we all said, it's not going to slow down, and their role is going to become more and more dynamic as the markets become more dynamic.
Yeah, great. And Marta, what about you? The future of marketing competitive intelligence?
Sorry, I'm on mute as usual. Apologies. So I couldn't agree more with Alex and Krista. I'm afraid I have nothing new to say apart from the fact that MICI will evolve just like the rest of AI, I would say. So around being more accurate, understanding clients better, working faster, and being able to predict the future, I would say, and not only provide just market overviews. I also anticipate that it will shift from a kind of a back office tool, right, which is at the moment a bit, to a strategic tool. So enabling C-levels to make more informed decisions. But yeah, we mentioned this many times today. So it will be just more accurate in terms of being tailored to concrete sectors, geographies, business models. And as I said, it will be able to anticipate some market shifts rather than react to them. It will be also, in my opinion, part of a wider business areas like strategy consulting, digital transformation, and such. And I fully agree with Alex that there will be definitely more work for people like us, like myself, as a marketing expert, because I'm pretty sure it will still require some soft skills like critical thinking, storytelling, to basically be able to translate the data that it's gathering and analyzing, and bring it to boardroom ready, to analyze them into boardroom ready insights. So that's what I can see.
Yeah, that's great. And Matthew, how about on your end?
Sure. So I'll give you 3 scenarios. So let's start with the wildly optimistic. In that case, marketing competitive intelligence will be able to help us predict the future, see what's happening as more data gets fed through the models, be able to kind of model outcomes with a high degree of accuracy. in the middle, and kind of in the middle scenario might be that there's maybe some more reliance on humans to kind of really dig in to find those nuggets of actionable data to really kind of drive organizations. And then there's the kind of more negative scenario where maybe, you know, there's that classic phrase from consulting, which is, you know, under promise and over deliver. Maybe AI has kind of over promised and it might under deliver, in which case, you know, kind of so these really powerful tools in the hands of people who maybe don't understand the limitations of the data, they might have made the wrong decisions, and therefore people could start to maybe, you know, question it a little bit more, and maybe go to more traditional kind of primary research methods to answer the questions. But anyway, that's a quick answer.
Yeah, no, that's great. You covered all your bases there. But also just being able to really understand what is the data and to bring something new into it. If everyone has access to AI and it's pulling pretty much all from the same sources, I think to your point on the primary piece, what new and unique insights can you bring out to it is going to become even more important as well. So we did have a question from the audience. So I'm going to direct this towards Marta and Matthew. So what mistakes did your team make when first setting up competitive intelligence projects or tracking for the projects as well? So Matthew, do you want to start on this one?
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question. I think, you know, with any kind of market research, the quality of it really depends on getting a proper brief and really understanding what the research objective is. And the reason I'm applying that, the way I'd apply that to competitor intelligence is really understanding who your competitors are. We track around 500 competitors, and we need to, because we're such a global organization, we need to look at it from three lenses: from a global lens, from a regional lens, and from a local lens. So I think one of the mistakes we made is that we track too much. So it's really understanding what kind of, you know, that kind of typical adage in research, which is, you know, depth and breadth. So what kind of breadth you want in terms of scope and how deep do you want to go, and really kind of understanding from very early on what the outputs are, and then getting everyone on board with that. So to give you a really practical example, pricing is something that comes up. So pricing is a really complex thing to get right. There are different prices at a product level and at a more general level. It's difficult to compare across different categories at time. Easier if you're in certain industries, maybe arguably like FMCG, but definitely in education, it's horrendously complex. So what you've really got to do is work with the colleagues that are going to be using the insights and just be honest with them about what's achievable, and also really try to work with them to say, look, what insight is it on your competitors that you need in order to take action? You know, what do you need to know about the competitor down the road, or the competitor at a regional level, or even at a global level? What specific nugget of intelligence is that? Because the more you can define that at the beginning, the much higher degree of success you'll have with your competitor intelligence gathering. And I know I'm in a pretty unique, maybe quite a unique field here, but I think that I'm pretty sure that applies to pretty much any context. But sorry, maybe slightly longer answer than anticipated.
It was a great answer, and I think to your point, it's more important than ever to understand what is the business use case that people have, because if you're going to be relying more and more on AI, you need to have the context of what's the outcome that you're trying to drive with it, so you can actually ask it the right question. So I think that's great. And then Marta, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that from your point of view?
Yeah, maybe just a small thing, more maybe psychological. I would say our biggest mistake in the very beginning was that we were afraid of making mistakes. And right now I can see that, you know, you have to try things, you have to, you know, come up even with the, you know, beta version of something until you simply fine-tune, cooperation with the partners and with business lines to see what it is that they really need. And I think, being open to making mistakes and not being, super accurate at the very beginning, I think is just part of the exercise that we don't have to be afraid of. Because the more we waited, for more accurate things, we were trying to pull some information from the teams, the more time actually it took before we were able to bring something to the table. So that's what I would say, what I would recommend.
Yeah, no, I think that's an awesome addition and a great way to wrap up the webinar as well. So thank you to all of our panelists for joining us today. Some really interesting things shared, especially about how things are evolving and where it will inevitably continue to evolve as well. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We will be sending out a recap and then a recording of this webinar as well. And of course, feel free to reach out or connect to anyone here on LinkedIn or reach out to us directly. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.